Think about the most ambitious colleague you know at work right now, the one who always says yes to every single opportunity without any hesitation whatsoever. They eagerly take on every extra assignment, every challenging stretch goal, and every promotion that appears on their path, resulting in impressive job titles and salaries that impress everyone during family dinners and social conversations while they follow all the conventional rules for career success. Yet, if you observe them carefully beyond the polished professional image and social media highlights, do they genuinely appear content and fulfilled in their everyday existence? Not the artificial happiness shared online or in work anniversary posts, but authentic joy that comes from living a balanced life after arriving home exhausted at 7:45 in the evening to a rushed meal eaten standing up. This individual comes home late after a demanding day, consumes whatever food is available while standing over the sink, since sitting down feels too exhausting, checks work emails one final time before bed, and then lies awake for hours, performing mental calculations to determine if the ambitious life they constructed so carefully truly matches what they originally desired deep down inside. Promotions arrive along with corresponding salary increases and elevated job titles that bring external validation. But somewhere along the journey, amid all these professional milestones and achievements, something vitally important quietly disappears without anyone noticing, until it is too late to recover easily from the subtle loss. This entire video examines exactly what that missing element represents in detail and focuses even more importantly on the smart individuals who anticipated the hidden costs ahead of time, politely declined certain promotions, and ultimately arrived at a completely different and far superior position 5 years later that proves much more rewarding overall. My name is represented here by Bob, who dedicates an unreasonable amount of time performing detailed financial calculations that human resources departments would strongly prefer remain completely hidden from employees everywhere. If you have ever experienced the frustrating sensation of working progressively harder each year while somehow falling even further behind financially, be sure to subscribe, because that specific feeling actually possesses a very clear and completely fixable underlying explanation. Before diving deeply into the specific numbers involved, let me clarify something important right from the beginning for complete honesty. This discussion does not suggest you should stop caring about your career or begin coasting through your professional responsibilities without effort. Instead, it provides a fully transparent and accurate accounting of what accepting a promotion truly delivers versus the substantial hidden costs it imposes on your time and well-being. Most individuals only perform the basic salary comparison math when considering a promotion and then stop their analysis there without going further. However, the salary numbers themselves turn out to represent the least interesting and least revealing part of the entire equation once all other factors enter the picture and change the real outcome dramatically. Consider getting promoted from an annual salary of $80,000 up to $110,000, which sounds like a substantial $30,000 raise at first glance. That figure feels validating and definitely worth celebrating during a nice dinner out with friends or family members who will be impressed by your progress and achievement in the corporate world. At $80,000, your combined federal income tax, along with FICA, deductions total approximately $14,890, leaving you with roughly $65,110 in actual take-home pay, after everything is accounted for properly in your budget calculations each month. Now, at the higher salary of $110,000, that same federal tax burden rises significantly to around $23,785, resulting in take-home pay of approximately $86,215 after the deductions have been applied accurately to your earnings. Of that entire $30,000 raise amount, approximately $8,895 goes straight to the federal government before you ever see even a single cent of the increase in your personal bank account or monthly budget planning. And that figure does not yet account for your state government taxes, which, remember, you exist as well, and claim their share of the additional income you earned through hard work and dedication to your career advancement opportunities. The truly difficult part still remains ahead of us, and it carries the name lifestyle inflation, which proves absolutely ruthless in its effects on your finances over time, even when people behave responsibly with their money management strategies and intentions. This happens not because individuals lack financial discipline, but because the process feels almost biologically automatic once higher income arrives, and the brain interprets it as permission to upgrade various aspects of daily living without much conscious thought. The average person ends up spending somewhere between 65 and 85 cents of every new dollar earned on improved lifestyle elements, like a slightly nicer apartment, a newer car model, or turning occasional restaurant meals into regular Tuesday evening routines. Research reports indicate that 40% of Americans earning over $100,000 still live paycheck to paycheck, despite their higher income levels, which challenges common assumptions about financial security at elevated salary brackets. A raise without any structured savings plan in place functions essentially like upgrading from a 5-gallon bucket to a 10-gallon bucket, while immediately purchasing more items to fill the larger container, completely leaving the same hole at the bottom untouched. Assuming lifestyle inflation absorbs 60% of your after-tax raise amount, your $17,500 in additional take-home pay suddenly shrinks dramatically to only about $7,000 available for genuine purposes like investing or building long-term security. Now add the requirement of returning to the office full-time, which introduces $4,000 to $12,000 per year in new commuting costs, lunches, dry cleaning, and other work-related expenses you did not face previously in your routine. Factor in the documented research showing healthcare costs run 50% higher for workers experiencing elevated stress levels, and suddenly, the original $30,000 promotion raise nets you somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 per year in actual investable savings. After everything, you provided the company with significantly more of your personal life and time in exchange for a new title and perhaps a small coffee budget, while the real value calculation reveals a much less favorable outcome than initially expected. Here comes a calculation that genuinely surprises most people before they accept any promotion, and it involves determining your true effective hourly rate, which represents the most honest financial metric in your entire professional life. When examined closely, take a vice president position paying $130,000 annually, which sounds excellent on paper at first consideration. Compare that to a senior individual contributor who declined the role and remained at $90,000, which also appears reasonable until hours are factored into the equation properly. Research indicates 58% of senior managers and executives work 51 hours or more each week, while conservative estimates place the vice president at 55 hours weekly, resulting in an effective hourly rate of only $45.45. After dividing the salary appropriately, the individual contributor staying at $90,000 while maintaining a clean 40-hour work week earns $43.27 per hour, creating a surprisingly small gap of just $2.18, as the true promotion premium once all real math has been applied thoroughly. Under current labor laws, once you become a salaried exempt employee, which applies to every manager and executive earning above a certain threshold, you lose all entitlement to overtime pay completely regardless of how many extra hours you contribute each week. The vice president working 55 hours per week essentially donates 780 hours of completely unpaid labor back to the company every single year, which equals 19.5 full work weeks provided at no additional compensation whatsoever. What could you realistically create or build with those 15 to 20 extra hours per week you just agreed to hand over? Without pay. Consider modest options like freelancing in your expertise area or developing a small consulting practice rather than anything overly ambitious or risky at the beginning. The average side hustler earns between $885 and $1,215 monthly, while those who invest real consistent effort see 35% earning over $1,000 each month on a regular basis through their additional activities. Imagine building something modest that generates $2,000 per month consistently and investing those funds into a broad market index fund averaging 10% annual returns historically over long periods, which compounds powerfully over time. After 10 years, that consistent investment would grow to approximately $47,000, and after 20 full years, it reaches an impressive $1.375 million, representing the true opportunity cost of those extra unpaid weekly hours. On a typical Tuesday evening at age 38, Bob, who accepted every single promotion, now serves as a director, earning $145,000 annually, which appears successful on the surface, yet his reality involves still being at the office at 6:52 because of reorganizations and urgent slide decks. He finally arrives home by 8:30 to find his children already asleep, eats whatever remains in the refrigerator, while standing over the sink, checks emails one last time, and sets an alarm for 6:15 in the morning to repeat the cycle again. His $520,000 mortgage demands he remains exactly in his current high-pressure role, while combined car payments of $1,600 monthly, along with private school tuition, lock him into maintaining this exact income level indefinitely. His retirement account holds only $87,000, which sounds acceptable until you realize he is 38 years old and will need roughly $1.5 million to retire comfortably, which leaves a massive gap with little left to invest after all expenses. Meanwhile, on that same Tuesday evening, another version of Bob who declined the last two promotions earns $98,000 while working fully remote and enjoys making pasta for dinner at 6:15, like someone who actually controls their own daily schedule and priorities. His retirement savings have reached $212,000 because he maximized contributions consistently for 7 years during the exact period when the other version chased promotions and spent raises before they even arrived in the bank account. He also launched a small consulting practice 2 years ago by charging for the same expertise his main job pays him to provide freely, and it now produces $2,400 monthly, which he invests almost entirely for future growth and security. This allows him to take meaningful trips like visiting Japan last year, read books unrelated to management topics, and genuinely struggle to identify specific sources of stress in his balanced life, compared to the high-pressure alternative path. Although one version earns $47,000 more annually, the other possesses $125,000 more in investable assets, works 18 fewer hours weekly, and watches those advantages widen steadily as compound interest rewards consistent early action. The promotion system in most companies was never designed primarily to create individual wealth or personal financial freedom for employees. Instead, it was engineered over many decades to maximize company productivity while making those two goals appear identical, even though they quietly diverge in practice. Labor economics describes your workplace using tournament theory, which compares it to an elimination competition similar to a reality television show, but with far less attractive prizes for the vast majority of participants involved over time. The vice president roles, director titles, and corner offices serve as powerful carrots that extract maximum effort from every employee, including the 94 to 96% who will never actually reach those levels, despite their hard work. Recent data shows only 1.3% of white-collar workers received promotions in the first quarter of 2024, marking the lowest rate in 5 years. While companies have become more skilled at encouraging participation in this increasingly difficult game, 37% of employers now offer what they politely term dry promotions, consisting of new titles without any pay increase, which still manage to motivate many employees who value status symbols more than actual compensation, according to surveys. When you invest years developing your entire personal identity around a specific job title, you gradually stop being an individual who happens to hold a position and instead become a position that happens to contain a person with serious consequences. Researchers discovered that job loss impacts people psychologically in ways very similar to losing a close personal relationship rather than simply losing income, because those who climbed aggressively lose not just money, but their core sense of identity and purpose. Middle management positions represented 31% of all layoffs in 2023, which increased from 20% in 2018. While companies actively work to reduce manager ratios and favor individual contributors with current skills. When the individual contributor faces layoffs, they possess sharp, up-to-date skills, a side income stream, lean finances, and multiple options available immediately. The vice president, however, has a mortgage sized for their previous high salary, a resume focused on titles rather than capabilities, and a very stressful period ahead. Employee surveys reveal that golden handcuffs represents the most frequently mentioned phrase among burned-out workers, describing what prevents them from leaving their current positions despite dissatisfaction with the overall situation. Research on income and happiness reveals nuanced findings where well-being generally rises with earnings, but experiences serious diminishing returns after reaching approximately $100,000 annually, as the additional benefits become much smaller very quickly. For the unhappiest 15 to 20% of people dealing with issues like depression or anxiety, well-being levels off completely around $100,000 and does not improve further, no matter how much additional income arrives. A comprehensive investor study found that possessing just $2,000 in emergency savings improves financial well-being feelings by 21%, while having $500,000 in annual income only boosts it by 12% in comparison. More employees than you might expect actively choose to decline promotions these days, with 62% of individual contributors preferring to remain in their current roles rather than move into management positions, according to recent surveys. A major study discovered that workers who pursue lateral moves across different functions or companies rather than strictly vertical promotions often achieve higher long-term wage growth and greater chances of reaching senior leadership eventually. Not every promotion should be declined automatically, of course, especially if it includes meaningful equity in a promising company or genuinely moves you from financial stress into true stability without excessive unpaid hours demanded. However, if the new role requires 15 additional unpaid hours weekly or represents one of the 37% dry promotions that add responsibilities without compensation, then the numbers speak clearly in favor of declining. Politely. The very first time you say no to a promotion, it often feels like falling behind as colleagues react with surprise. Your family asks careful questions, and your ambitious inner voice sends mild panic signals for several weeks afterward. After that initial discomfort period, something important begins to shift, as the hours previously spent in unnecessary meetings transform into productive time. Your retirement contributions start compounding meaningfully, and your side income generates tangible results. Bob, as the ambitious professional who accepted every promotion, now serves as a director with a substantial salary of $145,000 per year. Nevertheless, his life consists of long days, ending late, with ongoing reorganizations and endless tasks that keep him away from his family, while his high mortgage and other expenses force him to maintain this demanding pace without building substantial wealth for the future. Even though Bob earns a higher income after years of climbing the corporate ladder through multiple promotions, he returns home exhausted each evening to eat quickly while standing, because sitting feels like a luxury he cannot afford with his packed schedule. His expensive lifestyle, including large mortgage payments and other commitments, leaves very little room for actual savings or enjoyment outside of work responsibility. His children are already asleep by the time he gets home, so meaningful family interactions become rare, while his retirement savings remain far below what he needs for long-term security, despite the impressive title on his business card and apparent career success. And the best part? Another version of Bob who turned down recent promotions maintains a salary of $98,000 while working remotely and prepares a calm dinner at 6:15, like someone fully in control of their schedule and life priorities without constant pressure. This choice allowed him to build retirement savings up to $212,000 by maximizing contributions steadily over 7 years. During the period when the other path involved spending raises immediately upon receiving them without planning ahead, he developed a small consulting side practice that now brings in $2,400 monthly, which gets invested wisely, creating even more financial momentum and options for the future compared to the higher salary but higher stress alternative. The result includes enjoyable travel experiences like a recent trip to Japan, reading for pleasure, and an overall sense of calm, where specific stressors become difficult to identify because the balance feels sustainable and personally fulfilling every single day. Although one path pays $47,000 more each year, the other version holds $125,000 more in investable assets, works 18 fewer hours weekly, and benefits from compounding that. Widens the gap steadily over time in favor of balance. The entire corporate promotion structure operates like a tournament where only a tiny percentage reach the top prizes, while the majority contribute extra effort, evenings and weekends that primarily benefit company productivity rather than personal financial independence. Companies have discovered they can reward employees with status symbols and new titles instead of meaningful pay raises, and many workers accept these dry promotions gratefully, even when no additional compensation accompanies the extra responsibilities. Over years, people tie their entire sense of self-worth to their job title. So when restructuring or layoffs occur, the psychological impact feels closer to losing a close relationship than simply changing income sources with lasting effects. Studies show that true financial peace comes more from having a modest emergency fund of just $2,000 than from extremely high salaries, because security and the ability to handle unexpected events matter far more than raw income numbers alone. Increasing numbers of employees now choose to say no to management roles, prioritizing family time, physical health, and personal travel over climbing the traditional ladder, which opens doors to lateral moves with better long-term outcomes. Workers who move sideways across functions or companies rather than straight up the vertical path often achieve stronger wage growth over time and position themselves better for eventual senior leadership through broader skills and networks. Certain promotions deserve acceptance, particularly those offering real equity potential or moving someone from financial stress into genuine stability without demanding excessive unpaid overtime hours each week. Declining your first promotion creates temporary discomfort as others question your decision, and your own ambitious nature sends warning signals, But this fades as freed up time begins producing meaningful results in savings and personal projects. The hours saved from management meetings transform into consistent retirement contributions that compound powerfully, while side income streams generate real money and Sunday evenings lose their familiar tightness in the chest. 5 years later, the contrast becomes crystal clear as the person who kept accepting every advancement has a larger salary on paper, but a noticeably smaller life in practice, with less freedom and fewer options available. You will have spent that same period building assets that belong entirely to you, which no company reorganization can suddenly eliminate or restructure away from your control and ownership. The real change happens in your leverage your available options and your practical financial freedom, allowing you to leave work at 5. Invest the difference and let compounding work steadily on your behalf instead of the company's. If this detailed financial math has shifted how you view career climbing and promotions, consider subscribing for more insights and share in the comments whether you have ever turned down a promotion yourself, along with what happened afterward. The alternative path leads to a place that feels hard to explain to parents at first, but makes perfect sense once you run the real numbers and see the long-term advantages clearly emerging over time. True wealth and happiness come from leverage and control, rather than simply chasing the next title or salary bump that often costs more in personal time and well-being than it delivers in net benefits. Focus on building something sustainable in the margins of your life that belongs to you completely and cannot be taken away by corporate decisions or economic shifts beyond your control. Go home earlier, invest the savings consistently, and allow compound growth to accomplish what no employer will ever prioritize on your behalf in the long run. The person who learns to say no strategically ends up with more practical freedom, more options, and a life that feels genuinely aligned with what matters most over the years ahead. This approach reframes the entire career ladder as something optional rather than mandatory, and opens doors to paths that deliver better results both financially and personally when examined with clear, honest math. Drop a comment below if this perspective resonates with your own experiences, and share what happened the last time you considered or actually turned down a career advancement opportunity. Remember that the system benefits when you say yes without question, but you benefit most when you pause to run the real numbers and choose what truly serves your long-term goals and happiness. If these calculations have changed your thinking about promotions and career paths, make sure to subscribe for more honest financial insights that help you build real leverage and freedom in your professional journey ahead.